Amy and George and the students who lodged them. Whereas 14th Road goes more into the Beatles. In the lounge where the Quarrymen used to rehearse and the Beatles used to rehearse. In there, the loads made to look like it in the 50s. There's a lot of photographs on display of the lads rehearsing and writing songs in that house. That one also comes with an audio tour which has interviews from Paul and Mike talking about what it was like to live there at that time. Paul lived in that house right up until 1964, so he was already world famous. 22 years old, still living in that little house with his dad. I'm going to do that tour. You get the tickets from the tourist information centres or the National Trust website. We're now taking the same routes Paul and George would have taken each and every day when living out in Speak. 4 miles around this route they would have taken down to Penny Lane. John would have been travelling the main road that runs parallel with us, again meeting up at Penny Lane and travelling from there into the city. Imagine how many times I've worked on this route we're now taking. Just coming up on the right hand side just ahead of us here, what is now another Tesco Express. That was Woolworths. That's where Cynthia Powell, John's first wife, was working right up until she gave birth to Julian on the makeup counter. She never gave birth on the makeup counter, she worked on the makeup counter. So coming back to the top end of Penny Lane, on the right you've got the bank, the shelter, the very far side, the barbershop, and of course Penny Lane coming up on the left. One place I never mentioned earlier is on the left hand side as you go through the traffic lights, St Barnabas Church. It's where Paul actually was a choir boy in 1954. 1982 his brother Mike got married now at that church. Paul was the best man. As we go under this railway bridge, the first road on the right hand side is Garmoyle Road. Number 93 Garmoyle Road is where Cynthia Powell and Paul McCartney's then girlfriend Dot Roan used to share a flat. That is said to be the flat where Julian was conceived. It's also where Dot received a letter off Paul when he was out in Hamburg for the first time. The letter read, "As I write this letter, send my love to you. Remember that I'll always be in love with you. P.S. I love you." It was only 3 weeks later Dot caught Paul outside the cab with another girl, stood the letter back at him. When he read the letter again, he realised it did actually make a decent song. So P.S. I love you does come from a real love letter from Paul McCartney to Dorothy Roan. As we're making our way back into the city centre, there's nothing I can point out to you now until we get back into town, so just use this little gap to tell you a bit of history behind the Cavern Club itself. Now, previous to becoming the Cavern Club, it was the basement of a fruit and veg warehouse. The building above street level housed fruit and veg warehouses, importers and exporters and shipping companies. The basement that became the Cavern was where they kept the fish on ice, packed the eggs into boxes. It was a local doctor's son, a guy called Alan Sittner, who sent it into a jazz club based on a Parisian jazz club we'd visited a few times. So opened its doors as the Cavern on the 16th of January 1957. Within a very short space of time, it became the premier jazz club outside of London. A lot of big names and the jazz circuit transferred the Cavern in Liverpool. But the jazz era at the Cavern was very short-lived. By mid-1957, they put on regular skiffle nights. During 1957, the Quarrymen did actually perform at the Cavern. McCartney didn't perform there in 1958. And Ringo performed with a couple of different bands, but the skiffle period again, very short-lived, it naturally progressed into rock and roll. Now anyone who's anyone in rock and roll did actually play at the Cavern over the years. The reason it became synonymous with the Beatles rather than either band is because of how many times they played there. This is the first gig of the Cavern as the Beatles on the 9th of February 1961, and their last gig at the Cavern on the 3rd of August 1963, just over 2 years. The Beatles managed to perform at the Cavern a staggering 292 times, so it literally became a second home for them. Now, obviously by 1963 the Beatles are outgrowing the Cavern, so that's the last gig, 3rd of August 63. That wasn't the end of the Cavern. The Cavern carried on right up to 1973. It only closed its doors for the final time because of a compulsory purchase order placed on the building by Liverpool City Council and British Rail. It was to knock the building down to make way for a ventilation shaft for the new underground rail link that was being built. So the Bull Street level was demolished, flattened, turned into a temporary car park. That was in 1973. In 1981 it was still a temporary car park because they realised they got the measurements wrong. The ventilation shaft was never built on Matthew Street, so in essence the cavern had been filled in for no apparent reason. So after John's death in 1980, a local architect, a guy called David Backhouse, decided to make a lifelong tribute to John by excavating the site of the cavern. Once they started digging it up, that's when they realised the cavern itself had never been demolished. They'd only taken the tops off the arches to let any gases escape. All the brick pillars were still standing, but the foundations weren't going to be good enough to take the weight of the new 9-storey building that was going there. So they had to dismantle the cavern brick by brick. They saved as many bricks as they could. The bricks that were damaged or deemed unsafe to reuse, they sold and raised £500,000, which then given to the Salvation Army as strawberry fuel. So the new foundations then rebuilt the cavern on the exact same site, utilising 15,000 of the original cavern bricks. The only difference at the cavern today compared to the original is the whole club is being turned 90 degrees. So when you went today, you walked through the doors, you turned left to go to the stage, originally went in, and straight to the stage. Which is the same site, same address, same brick, same airspace, just turned 90 degrees.